You kind of have two different avenues when you start a dental business. And in the process of trying to decide, one of the important steps was actually that I can't express or proclaim louder, like the ability to grow as we've done has been a lot of intentionality. And it started with a lot of the reasons why partnerships would break up were centered around
all of the nightmare experiences of this partnership failed, this. I guarantee they did not do the kind of work that you just said.
Every good business has to be built around an ability to, it takes certain individuals to do hard things. The reason why not everyone is a business owner is because I think the difference between conflict and contention is when we start to, our goal is always to uplift the one. And if there's even one listener, one viewer that can be uplifted from my words today, then I feel like that's a powerful thing.
Welcome to the Intentional Way, where literally every moment is a step towards purposeful living. I'm Bryan Hatch, here to explore the power of intention with you. Learn from our guests who embody intentionality. I'm glad you're here with me. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Intentional Way. I'm your host, Bryan Hatch. And as we start our episode today, I want to remind you that if you subscribe, download, comment, rate our podcast, our episodes, you can do that at the bottom of any one of the platforms that you're listening to this on. It's really useful to bring awesome guests like the one you're going to be able to get to know today. I'm excited about who we have with us. But just remember, that's one way you can help this episode and this show grow, by getting great guests. Now, today's episode, we have a guest that I'm excited to introduce to you all because he's got a very interesting background, but also I've seen him in environments where he's in front of a lot of people or in front of smaller groups of people, and he's just dynamic, just a fun guy to be around. I love this guy, Greg Kiene. He is Dr. Greg Kiene. He's a dentist. He's a retired captain from the U.S. Army, and just a guy that I think we'll have a lot of fun here with today. So, Greg, welcome to the show.
Bryan, I appreciate it, and I hope I go down in history as the first person who invited themselves onto the show.
I love that. I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's fun to see different ways. We've got people that are learning about the podcast, other people that hear it and say, hey, I want to be on it. And you are the first to say, I want to be on, and you're here. So I'm glad that you did that. Glad that you moved some mountains in your world to be able to be here with us today. So as we get going, I do like to find out a little bit about our people that are here with us, our guests. Tell me a little more about something that no one else might know about you that you're willing to share with us. We'd love to hear it.
So most people know that I sing, and I probably wouldn't even put that on like an Indeed or resume, but I've actually been able to sing the national anthem in 2 different Major League Baseball stadiums.
Hey,
so
which ones?
Yeah, so one was in Atlanta. This is important, is in the 5th grade. So our class, I don't know how our school or class got invited, and we got to go get on the field. So that was with the Atlanta Braves, and we sang the national anthem. And then the second was in high school, was out in Arizona with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And so a small group, we got to go out and sing. I still actually have a little desire to try to sneak into some venues and do it again, just as the years go on. But anyway, it's an unclaimed accolade. I don't get a medal. I don't get to put it on, and I'm not going to go to all the Major League Baseball stadiums, throughout the whole nation. But I've got a few under my belt, which is pretty cool.
That's cool. They do play a lot of games. So, I mean, if there's an industry or a sports team to go after, I think that baseball is probably a good one if you want to expand the horizon there. But you said sneak in. Are you actually trying to sneak in, or are you trying to get in and sing? Because I think it'd be harder to sneak in and sing the anthem.
I mean, it's going to be hard to join like another 5th grade. I may be able to get into high school. I could probably pass it off. There are plenty of high schoolers that are as tall and as I am, so I could probably sneak in. But I'm going to have to be a little bit more straightforward, to get into these other ones.
So, are you? A sense of your voice. Are you a baritone, a bass? Or I don't hear a tenor, but you could be.
Oh man, I'm sneaking you out. So I'm actually a tenor. I sing more a good tenor 2 on a lot of fun days. I sing tenor 1. In fact, in high school, when I was a sophomore, we joined. It was an all men's choir, And me and my two buddies were like the only tenor twos, and we had to carry that section. And so I still sing. I think probably lack of sleep is where I find my best bass and baritone voice, which is a great podcast voice. So this is in preparation for this moment. I just had to deprive myself of lots of sleep, and it worked out great.
There you go. All right, so we got a 10 or 2 on the podcast today, which is exciting. So, Greg, I'm interested to know, in the world of intentionality, as you said, you invited yourself here, and I'm excited because of why you're here. I do see you as an intentional person, but tell us a little more about what is it that has you living intentionally or doing things intentionally.
Yeah. And I just want to applaud what you've been able to provide. I've listened to a lot of your recent episodes, and as I was listening, I was like, this is my life. This is what I love to do, is to make sure that things that I do have a reason and a purpose. And the other thing that I love to do is to talk. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity. I had to reach out and just say, Bryan, are you okay that I come on? And you were so gracious to bring me on. But one of the things in my life that has taken a lot of intention recently is, upon retiring and leaving the United States Army and wanting to open up my own dental office and dental practice, you kind of have two different avenues. When you start a dental business, you can either acquire and purchase a practice from an existing dentist that has existing patients and systems, and even sometimes acquire some of the workers. Or you can go do a startup scratch, like zero, get a little tooth guy on the side of the street, like flip the sign kind of thing, beg, scream and yell, and invite people to come see you. And in the process of trying to decide, one of the important steps was actually that I met an individual who became a good friend of mine in the United States Army, who was also planning to come to practice in the state of Texas, where I was eyeing to set up shop. And we decided that we would do a partnership. And so in that discussion, we said, hey, do we acquire and then adapt, or do we do a startup? And the decision was, we're going to go create something that doesn't exist. And there's a lot of people who disagree with this. In fact, there's a lot of people who disagree with partnerships. And it was interesting to get a lot of criticism along the way of not to do a partnership. And we are kind of headstrong and decided to just listen and figure out all the reasons of why partnerships don't exist, and make sure that they didn't get a part of our partnership. And then just decided to, if everyone's telling you not to do it, that we said, well, let's just do it. And so 2022 August, we opened up a dental office that had 0 patients, 2 employees. And I guess Dr. Merkley and I, so my good friend Chris Merkley, and so there's 2 doctors, but we alternated days. And we have grown that practice to have over 20 employees and have a patient pool of over 3,500 people. And so the whole premise, though, is intentionality, Bryan. I can't express or proclaim louder, like the ability to grow as we've done has been a lot of intentionality. And it started with a consulting firm that we reached out to help us, because truly there's not a lot of people that do a lot of startups, like 0 patient type practices.
Yeah.
And one of the first steps with this consulting firm called Ideal Practices is they make you focus on your KRG, which stands for what you want to be known by, what you want to be remembered by, and what your give back is to the community. And their whole premise is that is the intentional way. If you have to start your journey with intentionality, your KRG, so that you can, at the end of it, reach truly what you're trying to achieve.
That's awesome. I want to slow down and not let you skim over a couple of things that I heard you say, because I thought they were hilarious. So everybody, I have heard, like you, many people moan and groan about partnerships. I mean, don't do it. It's going to ruin your life. And if it doesn't now, it will eventually, or whatever the case is. And I'm not, there are people in my life that actually have gone through that and have been in multi-million-dollar lawsuits. There's a lot of stuff goes on. So I'm not negating their feelings towards it. But I love that you said everybody told me not to do it, so we ran and did it. So guys, that's advice from Greg Kiene. If they tell you not, don't do it. Just go do it. But tell me, how did you first? I want to get to the KRG stuff, but first, how did you set up a partnership in a way that didn't? At least you've been in business how long now?
So when we first had discussions was back in 2019. So it's been almost 6 years where we've been kind of working and planning, and we opened in 2022. But yeah, the conversation was way back in 2019.
Okay. So how did you create a partnership that at least has stood the test of that many years? I know 19, but 2020, like what you've been doing. Tell me, how did you set that up? Because I feel like most people don't do that work up front. They pay for it in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. So interestingly, so we had to go talk to people in the banks, and all the conversations that you'd have as an individual, now we're having as this duo. And that's where we kept running into this, oh, it's a partnership. Like, we don't recommend that you do it this way. And there's a lot of problems, right? Like, it's all about the breakup, you know? And then we had to meet with the lawyer, and they had lots of feedback. We had to meet with an accountant. They had lots of feedback. You can imagine all these people that have seen a group of people work together that then had some kind of form of separation, that it didn't work out. So what was interesting is a lot of the people, they were in partnerships. So I said, well, wait a minute, you're in a partnership and you're telling me not to do it. Tell me a little bit more about why you did or didn't do that and what worked and what didn't work. Once we got feedback, because truly, like, we wanted to know what would be best, and a partnership's great, but at the end of the day, we do have to support our own individual families that have our own individual goals. But a lot of the reasons why partnerships would break up were centered around either greed, infidelity, inside or outside of the practice, and or just kind of centered around not being on the same goals, not having the same plan. And so it became gut check time. Like, okay. So I sat down with my buddy Chris and I said, like, well, what is like our intention? Like, what is your dream? Like, what's your ambitions? And instead of us having to sacrifice some of our dreams, we were actually very parallel and lined up. This is kind of like, Bryan, the dating phase. And you'll hear people say partnerships are like marriages. And there's a lot that is like that. And so partnerships fail when you have lack of communication. That's similar into marriages, right? Partnerships fail when you don't have the same goals and ambitions that happens in marriages. Partnerships fail when there's questions about financials and they're not on the same page. And one wants to save more, one wants to spend more. So without having to force the friendship or without having to force like the goals, we were very much in alignment, which was a key indicator to us, like, okay, this is something that's great. I will tell you now, 6 years in, some great partnership advice. Like, truly, my business partner, Chris, and I we don't fight. Like, we truly have not ever had a time where we come in and we're like trying to strangle the other person. It's not because we haven't had conflict or differences of opinions, but we truly believe that the success of us working together is more important than our individual desire. I have to give up some things that I think are right or the best way, frankly, because he may have a different opinion or way. And I'm okay with that because that opinion or way isn't going to dramatically change or cause a problem to the business or practice. And if it did, we would talk about it and work through it. And so you have to be willing to also give up. If you're not willing to sacrifice, then a partnership's not for you.
That seems incredibly thoughtful. Obviously, we're talking about intentionality. I wish there were more people that would look at their relationships with their spouse or their significant other and say the same thing of, hey, like in your mind, to be able to say what you've just said. There are times when the other half of me decides they want to do something different than I would do it. And I have to be, well, this isn't like a level 10 important thing on my bucket. We could do it that way. I wouldn't do it that way, but we'll do it that way. But so many people don't. It's like, what the heck are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? And so then it creates that you're talking about conflict. You guys haven't had a fight around it. It's a more of a really healthy way to approach a partnership. It's really cool.
And so look, when I had been married for quite a few years by the time that I had met Chris, he had been married for a similar amount of time. And so we had practiced like being in a marriage partnership, which has awesome blessings that are not involved in a business partnership. naturally to keep it
Yep.
healthy and well. But the business partnership has a lot of the same tools, like you said, the ability to and perspective of how to deal with conflict, how do we communicate. And so really it came down to a decision of, all right, does this individual, based on the time, like we'd been friends for over 6 months without even considering partnership because we were just going to do our own thing. And there was a trigger in my life that changed my plan. And so then it had me consider, and then it was like, holy cow, like this could work. This could be a fantastic thing. And so I'm grateful for all the adversity of people telling us, hey, it's not going to work out. Like, it's no good. Don't try it. Because it gave us like the big why. Well, why not? And then we kind of went through all of our systems and checked, and we said, okay, well, we're going to go do it. I will say this, a difference in business, we took a lot of the advice and we wrote up like things that were potentially bad into our business contract in our partnership. And so we sat down with a lawyer and said, hey, we want to draft our business partnership. And we had to find the right lawyer that would work with us, which was awesome. His name's Josh. And we said, Josh, look, we have all of these people who's given us all these problems. And here it is. We want to talk about every scenario, good, bad, and ugly. We want to know from the beginning what happens when this happens and that happens. Where does the money go? How does it get divided? How does the purchase go out? Who loses, who wins? And when you kind of flush all that out, I think it just alleviates a lot of pressure and everybody knows what's going to happen. And then it's a matter of, okay, let's get to work and make sure it doesn't.
So I want to highlight for our audience, Greg, like you've just put in such a beautiful, practical scenario, what we should be doing in our lives, every day of our lives. And let me just quickly say this, that the work you did with your partner up front, okay, and I didn't know all of this stuff, to meet with a lawyer and say, hey, I'll get all the scenarios. You went through all that and then be able to say, okay, this is how it's going to go out. This is how we're going to deal with that. If that comes up, this is how we're going to deal with it. That is work you did up front. You paid a lawyer, you worked on it, you had discussions, you probably went to dinner and lunches in multiple weeks, and you spent time doing this so that now your partnership can be on a solid foundation of this is the rule set. Like, this is how we're going to rock it. It's so much easier to do the work up front. This is intentionality than to do cleanup on the back end.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, like all of the nightmare experiences of this partnership failed, this, I guarantee they did not do the kind of work that you just said. I'm not saying they did no work. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they didn't do the kind of intentional work that you just did. And that is the difference. That's what I love about it. So thank you for highlighting that such like the best way I possibly could ever think of it. It's awesome.
Well, and I appreciate that too. And each of the lawyers, each of the accountants, each of the bank they were subspecialized. So this is like a bank individual of specific dental loans. This is a lawyer who deals with just dental type practices. This is,
okay,
an accountant that is specialized in only dental stuff. So we really valued their opinions. And we kind of took that model later when we were just deciding on what type of equipment and what type of dental chairs to purchase and buy. And we followed the same thing. We reached out to, there's a group of people who will help service your dental chairs when they break down. Mm-hmm. And I remember as an associate working in a different office, having lots of different models of chairs, and they were breaking down. So these people were coming in to service them all out. And I thought, man, when I have my office someday, like, I don't want breakdowns. Like, this is such a bummer. It's a bummer for the patient to reschedule, a bummer for me. Like, I'm just sitting around doing nothing. So I said, well, what chairs like break down all the time? Which chairs don't? And, gather that information, which then we took into our business practice. Okay, it's worth spending XYZ a little bit more, or let's go this angle, this route, so that we can avoid as best we can these turns and stuff like that. So yeah, like intentionality in all the details is really like part of the topic of why I wanted to come, is that within the business side, do a lot of that prep work, that ghosting, that shadowing, that asking, dig a little bit, because it has saved us, it has helped us. And guess what? The times that we didn't dig and didn't find, we got to have those problems. And that's okay too. We were intentional to what we thought was what we needed to do. And we had some failures, and we got to pivot off of those and make different and better decisions. So it was great and stressful.
But even the way you built your company, I have heard most dentists acquire. I'm not And I might be off in the stats. You would know that. I don't know that. But in my mind, it's like most dentists will acquire a dentist practice. The fact that you started it from scratch, there's some beauty in that you get to create it however you want it. So there's a lot of intentionality, a lot of decisions. But tell me, how did you arrive at this KRG principle? I know you worked with somebody. I don't know who that was, but how did you arrive at this is what we're going to do and this is how we're
well, and actually you alluded perfectly into that, because when you acquire an office, there's a lot of things you can't change without having to do a big remodel, right? I don't like the position of this chair or how this operatory, which is the dental room that you sit in, like how that looks. And the team that usually you acquire, they're like, doctor, we've been doing this for 60,000 years this way, and now you want to change it this way? Yeah, because that's 60,000 years old, and there's like a better way for the patient. So the KRG, again, by our consulting firm, Idle Practices, they said, okay, we won't even work with you. They like actually pre-screen us for startups unless we can provide them a good KRG. So what do you want to be known by? How do you want to be remembered? And what's your give back? And so you kind of sit down and say, like, and I know that known and remembered seems like the same, but when you really sit down and think about it, like known is kind of, I feel like, what people think of now, the dental practice, but how they see me now isn't necessarily how they're going to remember me. I think remembered has a deeper feeling, connection, trust. You know, they might know me as like the fun, like the one that helps me with my anxiety, that has, and we'll get to this, but an 80-foot flagpole at the front of their dental office. Like that might be how I'm known, but I hope that I'm remembered by how well I took care of them, or how I made a connection with them and helped them with either a certain amount of pain or a certain amount of emotional aesthetic problem that they had, and how we could find a solution. The give is that they said every good business has to be built around an ability to give it forward or give it out, something authentic to you that allows you to give back to the community as they're now giving to you. They're offering you either time or financial resources or exposure or marketing. How do you want to give back? And so Chris and I sat down, and that was an interesting part of our partnership as well. I could find things that were authentic to me that I wanted to give back. He found things that were authentic to him, but we knew as a partnership it had to be authentic to the two of us. And so we found kind of an umbrella of what we felt like was important in mental health, and then we found the exact right business and partnership that we could do for our give back. So our give back is centered around mental health, specifically like autism and or suicide awareness or suicide prevention. And with our military background, there's a lot of PTSD and things involved in that. So that's a big umbrella. Our give partnership is called Camp Summit. They are actually just 30 minutes down the road, and they do a camp, week-long camp for adults and kids with disabilities. It's a no barrier camp. Their idea is whether they're autistic, have Asperger's, Down syndrome, they're blind, they're deaf, they've been told or exposed to less things, or told they can't accomplish as many things, and they have these barriers that prevent them from going hiking, camping, horseback riding, fishing, archery, painting, like sports, swimming. And that camp for a whole week says, no barriers, what the heck? We're going to find a way to make it an awesome sports camp for you. And we are honored to be partnered with them. And so every new patient that comes into our office, we take a portion of that new patient exam and we donate it to create what are called camperships, which you could think of them like a scholarship program. Okay. Not every adult or kid can pay to afford, or family can afford to send them. And while Camp Summit has an awesome sliding scale based on income, we still want to supplement and be able to help with sending as many people as we can. And so we help donate. And each year we volunteer a day where we go spend some time over at Camp Summit. And it's like the highlight of my team members. Like, it's just, that's you cool. Can't not be there and not just feel how awesome it is. So intentionality, that's our give. So when you walk into my office through those double doors, yes, you see like front desk to your right to check in. You see a little room of the patient lounge to wait to be seated. And then but straight ahead, painted on the wall, is Camp Summit and their information and our partnership with them. It's literally the center of our practice. It is, we've built our DNA around this idea of giving back. And so we embodied our KRG from the very beginning and tried to build the business around what we wanted, so that we didn't end up 15 years, 10 years down the road saying, where did we get? Like, why are we here and why aren't we doing what we really wanted to do?
So in the vein of the KRG, you said this consulting firm wouldn't even take you on if you didn't have one worked out at some level. They might be able to help you. Did they give you instructions of how to do that? Or they just like, here are the principles, go figure it out and send it back to us? How would that work?
A few examples, yeah, like you could kind of see, and they guide you through that process so you can be successful. But I think it takes certain individuals to do hard things, right? The reason why not everyone is a business owner is because there's hard things involved and some people aren't willing to do it. The dentistry is no different. And so to do a startup, there's going to be some hurdles and hard things to do. And so I think this consulting firm, we become a great partnership and friendship in that process. They're with you from the very beginning. That was back, even before 2019, around 2019 until we opened 3 years later. So they want to find people who truly have an authentic drive, or it's just a pain. Like someone that really just is focused on numbers and not individuals. Like that's part of them being intentional. They want to find people that are worth them spending their time with, because work is work. But when you enjoy people, when you create an environment that has relationships and friendships and you culture that, then work is fun all of a sudden. Then it's exciting. We want to have a place that's exciting where people come, where we can, yes, get a lot done and stay focused, but it's got to be better than just numbers, or we all kind of quit. Like we go find another number somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, I honor you in doing the work up front, again, to know what your give back is and to be truly connected to it. I think that really matters in business. And as I honor you in it, there's still a question I want to ask, because I think it's interesting. How much of other places or other dentistry offices, other places, have you ever experienced a give back that didn't feel real? Because I think that there's so many benefit driven companies now in our day and age. That's kind of, Tom's Shoes was one of the first that kind of really got notarized for, hey, you buy a pair, we're going to give a pair. And I'm not saying they were the only ones by any stretch, but it started to become like, oh, this is what you do. And now it's almost like an antidote of, oh, how do I look like an awesome business, make a lot of money, but actually I'm giving back, but I don't really care about the give back? It's like, I must have a benefit driven something. So how much does that feel like a gimmick, or how would you find out if that's a gimmick for a company or if it's heart-centered like it sounds like it is for you guys?
I think a good way for any business to know if they're achieving that goal of having it not be a gimmick is how many team members talk about it. Like, how has it gotten to the next level and the next level of where they feel like this is authentic and real? I know an office that they had to give back similar. We asked them if we could borrow one of their ideas, which was we wear mismatched shoes. So like, okay. I buy 2 pairs of shoes. I don't want to have back problems. So they're like the same style or fit, but they're different colors. So, and they're the colors that are part of the Camp Summit. They have like a primary color type thing in their logo. So I wear one color on the right foot and one color on the left foot, so that when people talk to me in the office, or actually happens a lot outside the office, because I go to work, the grocery store afterwards, I go to my kids' like sports practice. I'm like, why are you wearing a different pair of shoes? And the joke is always like, you have a problem? Or like, to get like dressed in the dark, and I usually have something waiting to say back to them, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. But then I'm like, no, I know. And it's, thank you for asking. It's about our give back. It's awareness for it. So this company that did it, they had this idea of wearing mismatched shoes, but nobody did. Nobody wore it. Nobody, like the intent was that they would talk about it. So does that give you an idea of when you're self-evaluating your business, like, is it authentic enough? Are people on board that they're doing it versus I have this idea, or I put their logo and I pay a certain amount because we know it's an accounting tax write-off, right? That's the intent, I think, of a lot of places, and they can say that they're charitable about it, which I think has a certain level of nobility to it. But I think that there's a higher level, which is you got to care about. And my biggest thing, Bryan, I think that you would question them is saying, how is this authentic to you? Like, why did you choose it? So in dentistry, there's one about Smiles, like an organization that does give back to kids, and it's about Smiles, and they do like whitening a certain amount and they give back to kids, and a great cause. Like, it's hard to not give a lot back to kids in school in all forms of fashion. But I think as a business, if it's not authentic and you don't like feel the deep connection, which is why we take our employees like out there, like you've got to see, you've got to experience, you've got to know. And when they see it, I mean, they like leave in tears because of how impactful this is to their lives. And I wish I could take my patients like out there, but we do the best we can to show them what it's like and the impact they're having on them.
That's beautiful. And I love that it is heart-centered. It is actual give back that you're working through, that you're excited about. You make it be known. And the marketer in me loves the two shoes thing, dude. That sounds like if you want to have anybody ask you a question, just do that and you'll start getting a lot more conversations. And knowing as much as you love to have conversations, and I can see you doing that joke almost 90% of the time. Hey, do you know you have what? Like doing the first gut check of and then acting embarrassed, which I know you're not, but I could see you pulling that like 10 times a day, you know?
So yeah, the fun part is coming up with creative ways to pretend like you're shocked. Like, what? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, and then because my assistants, man, they'll go crazy if I say the same joke every time. And Dr. Workley is terrible. He says the same joke almost every time. So we're encouraging him to come up with new jokes, continually. But yeah, like, so if it means that much to me that I'm going to intentionally buy two different color shoes, I care about it and I wear it and I mean it. And so our world is awesome. We've gotten really good at putting our labels on lots of stuff. I love that I can put our logo on clothing and hats and all sorts of things. But at some point, you've got to take it the next level. Don't just slap a sticker on, show that you're there, show that you're involved, be a part of it. Know the names of the people that are part of the charities and organizations that you work with, that they're excited to see you. It's a very different Christmas card that you get at the end of the year when you are more intentional with it.
Yeah. Well, that in intentionality, we call that alignment, right? Aligning your actions with what you actually want or want to create or how you want to be. And I love that you do that. Tell me a little more about how your practice has, used these principles of intentionality to create something that's different. I mean, to go from what you've been, no employees to 20 employees in the amount of time that you have, starting from scratch, that's a big feat. So how else have you done it that draws customers? Like, because you're competing against other dentists. Like, there's other dentists that have been there for decades, if not whatever. So how did you do that? What else has made that intentional work out for customers?
Right. So now it starts we call the patient experience. And you mentioned like alignment. Our office is Valor Dental, VALOR. It's the Valor DNA. And so the patient experience, it has to be different and it has to be authentic. So I mentioned earlier an 80-foot flagpole. So one of the bright ideas was, because we're both veterans, we thought, those Camping World flags that are ginormous? We said, we have to have one of those. We're two veterans coming together. We're in Texas. This is like the best opportunity ever. And really, it wasn't to toot our horns of serving. We knew it would be something awesome for the community. Like, the community loves to rally around our patriotism and how much we love our country and our communities. So we made the investment and planning to do the installment of an 80-foot flagpole. So the experience, Bryan, starts when you're over 2 miles away. You can see this flag, and the flag up in the air always looks smaller than it is down on the ground, but it's essentially like 4 car parking spaces, long.
Yeah.
So I always imagine that if 4 cars were up in the air, flying and flailing, what that would look like. And that's what this flag size is. And so people know and are understanding that our office is that's Valor Dental. We can see it from a few miles away. And one thing I'll add about that before I talk more about patient experience is that we later, as a joke, I told Chris, I said, hey, I think it would be great if we did a Halloween flag and if we put the crossbones skull pirate flag. How amazing would it be if we just surprised the community and all of a sudden we have this pirate flag out there? It would be awesome. And he was at first, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't know if we should do this. And so kudos to another company called Energize that we became good friends with, another veteran called Matt Brown, one of the owners. he, over dinner, he was like, why in the world would you not? Like, this is amazing. And so it kind of gave us the courage to do it. And since then, we have rolled out for lots of different holidays. We just put down our February Valentine's Day flag. We have a Mother's Day flag. We have a St. Patrick's Day flag. We just put up, this last Christmas was our first time with the Christmas flag. So we have intentionally created something, even outside of the practice, that without having to pay to be a patient. You don't have to be a patient. It's something that can impact you in your life, because I get people that come in and say, my kid loves that pirate flag. Like, we're living in the community right next to practice. Every time I pull out of the community, I get to see your flag, and I love when, it's a surprise, it's something different. Or I get asked sometimes which flag I'm going to put up for the 4th of July, and I look at them and I remind them, like, oh, it's the American flag. And we get to laugh.
The normal flag.
Like Veterans Day, we're going to do the American flag, but it's great. But they're asking, they're involved in excitement. And so from the beginning, there's already this feel that something's different. So when they walk in the door, I want every part of the experience to be different, better than their last dental experience. So the way that they check in was intentional. The way that we don't have checkout where they check in. Checkout's on another side of the counter, right? We don't want to call it a waiting room. Nobody wants to wait. It's a patient lounge. In the lounge, you have complimentary drinks, right? There's a little hot water. You can make some tea and hot cocoa. They can have a different experience than just be waiting and nervous to be back to see their dentist. When they get to the operatory or the room, right, we have a comfort menu. They're going to be shown what's on the comfort menu between earplugs, blankets, and we have, a TV that when they lean back, they can watch something. So they're not just like counting ceiling tiles and counting the minutes and waiting to get out. These are all different things between the smell that they have and the different diffusers to just make it intentionally the way that we want it to be, different and calming. I mean, we play music that's like the flavor of the day, and it's awesome. And it's probably more from our teenage high school than we should. We probably play more, you'd expect like classic rock, probably more like some punk rock 90s music than we should. But it's like, it's us as a doctor work that. It's just who we are, and it's authentic. And so the feedback we're getting from the community, Bryan, is that they feel different and they feel heard. We don't skimp on our first patient exam. It's a full 90 minutes. And you're going to get me as a doctor for a lot of that time. Well, a decent portion. You're going to be with my team member for a while, doing your cleaning and whatnot. But I think a lot of other offices will do like a smaller amount of time, and we just don't want to skimp on that. Like it's all intentional. The way that we want to talk to you about finances, because we know that everyone has goals and ambitions and a budget. And so we want to present in a way where you have options, that you have a way to take care of what you want to take care of. And we ask awesome questions like, what is the most important thing that I can do for your dental health? Or what is the most important thing that you want me to do? And I just sit and I just listen. And if they don't say whitening, guess what I don't do? By the way, you should whiten your teeth because you're going to die if you don't get whitening. Like, it's like some of the lies you get told all the time in other places, in other industries. But we want them to feel different, and they have. And the feedback from the community has been like, this is just so different, so refreshing, so awesome. And that has been our growth.
Speaking of intentionality, what is your intention for listening to this episode? Are you simply passing the time, or are you here because you truly want to improve something in your life? The way we act is a direct reflection on what matters to us. So right now, while you're here, take a quick moment and rate this episode, or leave a quick comment. Pulling your thoughts into words is powerful, and it turns passive listening into action. When you act on your intention, that's where change happens. Your rating, your comment, your share, they're not just clicks. They're a signal that what we're building together matters, that conversations like this deserve to grow. Each action helps this message reach more people who are looking to live intentionally. And here on YouTube, tapping that like button, commenting below, or sharing this video with someone who matters to you is telling the algorithm that intentionality is worth spreading. It takes just a few seconds, and it creates a bigger ripple effect than you might realize. I created this show because I wanted to help people find their way, find the intentional way. Yeah, I was very interested to know what your clients say. And Greg, I'm interested to know, you said this, I want you to dig deep here. This is just kind of who you are. But why do you think so intentionally about all these things? I don't think that it was just like, oh, business plan, we must think through every single nook and crevice, because it occurs to me that you're treating human beings like they actually have a life going on over there, as opposed to, you're in my office, do what I need you to do. I'm not, I have got a good dentist. I like him a lot, but I don't, it sounds like you've gone through a nitty gritty experience to a granular level that most people don't. So where does that come from for you, Greg? Like, why did you do that?
I think it was a discovery. The consulting firm that we worked with, when they put us through that process of KRG, that was the discovery of, oh my gosh, this is extremely important. Like, one of the other tasks is they have you write the ideal, perfect 5-star Google review. And so I sat down and I thought, okay, if I'm a patient, like, what is that experience? And so I had to flip roles and take the time and pause and flip roles. And I wrote, my Google review was like a page. I mean, it was like, if someone could write this review,
perfect. Yeah.
like, you would be like, perfect. But I'll tell you what, Bryan, like, a little sidebar comment. I have literally teared up, and it has brought me to emotion when I see Google reviews by people and I read almost word for word a clip or a portion that came from my Google review. Like, it floors me and it excites me to see that because of intentionality, because of purposeful alignment and thinking, that, like, it's working. I think that's the hardest part of the business owner. Like, is this going to work? Like, if I just really focus on customer care, are they really going to come back? And, like, I want every soon to be future, now present, or past business owner to realize, like, truly, like, find your DNA, find what's authentic to you, stick to that, and you will see the benefits of that. And it's so much more rewarding than earning $1 in a different way that you don't feel connected. Your other point of the question, like, where did I first kind of flip that? A lot of how I interact with people is not the way that, like, people that know me from my youth, this is not the Greg that they know. And one of the biggest times that it changed was when I was in college and my wife was doing an internship for her major, which was recreational therapy. Her degree is focused on using recreation in a way that helps people therapeutically change certain aspects of their lives. Sometimes that's through disabilities. Sometimes that's through drug abuse problems and addictions that they're now recovering, and they use therapy to teach life lessons that allow them to now gain better control and focus in their life and intentionality in their life. So we went to Sun Valley, Idaho, and we're participants. I went just along because I didn't want to be lonely, like, at college for a summer. And I knew that it was wise for me to go with my wife. So I went with her, followed her. She was the intern, and I got a job at a summer camp for kids with disabilities.
Okay.
And for the first time, probably in my life, I really had to think about how I talked. Like, how I responded, that what I said mattered, that an individual may not think the way that I do, and that's okay, and that there may even be a reason beyond what I can change, and I have to be okay with that. And it was hard at first to think about how to change, and I had to learn, like, skills that therapists are learning. This was, my wife was there, like, already doing these skills and doing these things, and I think that is truly where things started to change, that I realized I need to slow down. Like, I believe that I had an inherent good. Like, I intentionally wanted people to feel good, or like, I wanted people to be happy, but I didn't really know how I could make that happen or how to interact with them, or I wasn't stepping on toes or making it about me, myself. And so that was a turning point. We loved it so much. We went the next year, just both as camp counselors. And that's been the foundation for how I interact with my wife, how I interact with my kids, how I interact with my partnership, how I interact with my team members in my office. And finding this consulting firm that was in alignment with already what I thought, because I went to another one. I went to another seminar that helps people do startups. And it was feedback from another dentist that is friends of ours. He said that of those two, he said, the one startup consulting firm really knows the mechanics, nuts and bolts, and they'll help you a lot. this other consulting firm, they will help you build your DNA and heart into your practice. And so that's what we went with. And I 100% have zero regret. And it made that process very seamless. And it's been amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, you mentioned the words slowing down as you went as a counselor. How have you accomplished slowing down, and what does that actually mean to you, slowing down?
I want to introduce this idea that there's a difference between conflict and contention. And slowing down is like a really key part of that, where the emotion side of our brain, when we see conflict, takes over so fast. And the logic part of the brain sometimes gets bumped out of the way. We can't quite bring it to the surface. And so the pause is a technique where I try to look at what just happened and call it what it is, give it a definition with no emotion. Then it allows me to intentionally make sure that I don't turn conflict into contention or vice versa. So I think the difference between conflict and contention is when we start to take conflict and cast blame, and we start to make fun of the individual or hurt them or demand certain things that are emotionally attached to us because there's contention. But great book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Good Team. Like, one of those dysfunctions is the inability to address conflict. Conflict, I have learned to love, it's everywhere, always. Like, conflict, like in your family, like it just is an opposite of once. Like, it happens all the time. So I want you to go to bed at a good time. My child does not want to go to bed. Conflict, right? My son wants this, the other son wants something different. Conflict. I want an employee to arrive on time. They want to sleep in and arrive late. We have conflict, right? Contention now is when I get mad and I yell at my team member because there was conflict. Conflict is when my sons start to jabber and poke and pry at each other because they don't know how to call it conflict. Conflict is, I say to my son, well, I'm the boss, I'm your dad, like, respect your elders and go to bed, right? That's not how I want to deal with conflict. So if I can call it what it is, and I do this, Bryan, I say, okay, like, we just have opposite wants. That's all this is. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean you don't love me. It doesn't mean that I hate you. It doesn't mean that you hate me. Like, when I go to the store and I think it's too expensive, it's just conflict. Like, I want it to be cheaper and you want to sell it for something higher. Like, it's just conflict. So now it's like, how do I turn it not into contention? Am I going to yell at the person behind the counter, like, this is too expensive? Now I turn it into contention, right? So it's just conflict. And if we can use tools like talking about it, empathy, hearing about what the other person has, ask clarifying questions. So what do you mean by that? Or help me understand why you're showing up late. Like, oh, I'm sleeping in. Oh, tell me why you're sleeping in. Like, oh, I'm staying up late. Oh, and then I find out that, like, they're taking care of their mom who's sick and ill. I'm like, okay, well, I want you to come talk to me about those things. I just think that you just don't love coming to work on time. And I'm glad I know that you do love coming to work on time, that you have this hard thing. How can we help support you? Like, now we've changed what would have been so hard. And I could make someone who's really an awesome team member feel so inadequate when I want them to feel awesome. I want them to love coming here. And there's got to be a reason why they don't. So pausing, taking a minute. I know you've had great recent people and that have talked about this, right? About biology and all the hormones in our body, the stresses that happen, that you just need to stop, take a moment. But the thing that I've talked about a lot is just calling it what it is. And I'll give you one more example. My wife and I, right? Like, we love each other to death, right? We love each other beyond death. Like, she is my best friend. And yet we still have conflict, differences of opinions on something. When you love someone so deeply, so passionately, it's easy when you have conflict for it to want to turn into contention, because you feel like they have a deeper level of understanding. They have more responsibility. They have a deeper level of understanding. I should have more responsibility, right? Or it's easy to, you start blaming yourself. So sometimes the contention is I'm blaming myself in the situation. And I found that if I can just call it what it is, what just happened here? Like, this didn't happen, or this was accomplished, and that's it. All it is. Like, I did this, and then I say, okay, now, like, that's what it is. And I just think about that one thing, like, how bad is that thing that they did that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what my wife just did is not a bad thing. I don't know why I'm so upset. But Like the fact that she just did this and I can call it what it is. And I'll use an example that's not a real thing, but she left her shoes out in a place I didn't want her to leave her shoes, right? And that's super annoying, right? Because people should put their shoes away where they belong, right? Not a problem of Aubrey's, but just an example. If I can just call it what it is. Okay, there's shoes in a spot where they don't belong. Okay, how do I feel about that? Well, I don't like that. But just the inherent conflict. Does that conflict alone destroy my life? And it's like, okay, my life is not destroyed. I'm going to take a few deep breaths. And now I want to hear and feel, and we have to take time to process. It's called processing in therapy. But process, clarifying questions, figure it out. It's a big thing in my family that we now talk about. Like, we can have conflict. Good teams have conflict. I want my team members to bring conflict. I want my team members, and they know, I tell them all the time, they're like, they think I'm crazy. Bring me conflict. They're like, what? I'm not talking about like, I want you to gossip. That's contention. You took a conflict, a problem, like she's not doing this, he's not doing that, and you started talking about it. You created contention. Let's talk about the conflict. Why they did this? I don't know where this goes. Oh my gosh, well, we can figure that out and then resolve conflict without contention. Yeah, I know I just gave you a ton of things, Bryan.
No, it's a beautiful framework for slowing down, because what you said, I asked you a simple question, like, what does slowing down mean to you? And it's very clear that it means something to you. And now everybody listening has a way to slow down, because sometimes you hear from somebody saying, just slow down, think it through. But that's not maybe enough to understand what you need to do. And I think a critical piece of what you do is call it what it is. It's really important that you call it what it actually is, not what you think it is. Like you said, these are shoes that are in a location not put away. That's an accurate statement, not so angry the shoes are in the wrong place, I tripped over them. Like, that's not accurate. That's just what you think about what actually is. And so if you can call it what it is, what a beautiful framework, Greg. I love the way that you slow down. There's a myriad of ways you could think about that. And that's one of the things I love about my show and what we do is there are 1,000 ways you can be intentional. But if you understand somebody else's way of doing it, it might help you create your own way in your own DNA and how you do things in your home or in your business that may be different than Greg, maybe different than me, but it still is your way and it works and it's causing you to slow down, be aligned, and be thoughtful and intentional. I love it. What a cool framework.
Yeah, and like most things, we're not experts at it. Like, I feel like when we're experts at things is when our higher power decides to take us off this earth. So I've definitely not mastered a lot of these things as I'm still here. But defining it. And you're right, you have to separate emotion in that definition. And then what's maybe important, Bryan, is ask the other person like how they define it. Because that could be why you have conflict, right? Like, we see exactly the same thing. It played out exactly the same way in front of us. But now I'm defining that differently. And I know that's something that my wife and I have sometimes seen, is that she may see something and define it as, oh, I feel like that person offended this other person. And I might see it as, I think this person is very confused. And so as we've talked, it's been really neat to come together and say, wow, like your definition is different than my definition. We ask about it. And that's not even conflict with us. We're looking at the conflict of people around us. We're pretty big observers. But when it's happening with other people, like my kids, it's like, all right, well, help me understand. Like, I don't tell them to define it for me, like that would be kind of weird for them to hear as dad, but like, help me understand what I just say, what happened. And as they're telling me what happened, that's the definition. And then if they start to tell me what they feel, I say, oh, okay, I want to hear later how you felt about it, like after, but just tell me the story. They really want to tell a story. We want to define what we saw. But sorry, and I'm laughing because I thought of a really good friend from dental school who had ADHD. And so that was a really important tool, because the way that he processed life, like, I think he only saw like 50% of what happened really in life. And so I would see things more like, probably closer to 80%. I bet I have times where I'm not seeing the line straight through. But he would like piece in what he thought happened in between those gaps. And then I'm like, I don't think we didn't define the same way, but let's talk about this and let's talk about how we feel. And I think it happened this way. And then we get to resolution and it's awesome. We avoid contention. Don't avoid conflict. Embrace conflict. Embrace it. Like, businesses should have conflict. That's how you improve. That's how you know what things are working and not working. If you try to avoid conflict, you're going to fail, because conflict arises. Like, family has conflict as soon as we have different wants. I don't want to eat that. Well, I made it for you. Like, conflict, right? So how do you not take it to contention? How do we think about it, process it? Like, intentionality goes way far, and it gets applied in so many great ways when you can do it that way.
Okay, so give our listeners the first step. If I'm a person that avoids conflict at all costs, I think there are a lot of people that would fall into that quasi definition that I'm giving you. What is the first step for them to embrace conflict in a way that's useful and intentional, like you've talked about? Give me the first step for someone like that.
So conflict is often associated with failure, right? Like if we have conflict, I'm failing as a parent, I'm failing as a boss. Like the fact that two people aren't getting along, that's conflict. There's failure here. Something's not working. When we say it's not working, we're failing. I have heard from a good friend, actually it was said by my business partner, Chris Merkley's uncle. He said, and I really latched onto it. So he's like, fail fast, fail frequent, and fail forward. He's like, the faster you fail, the more frequent you fail. And if you fail forward, don't dwell it on the back, but move forward. Like you'll just achieve more and accomplish more. So the first step is probably acknowledging that failure's okay. Like that you have little control in preventing conflict, because conflict is a healthy and a natural part of relationships. The way to avoid conflict is to live alone. And then you're having conflict with each other. So again, like truly, like a society where we just are isolated is decently conflict free. You're just conflicting with stuff in yourself. But you would have a lot of conflict eliminated. Like, I want to do this, so you do it. Like nothing's going to stop you. I want to do that. I want to do it. Like you wouldn't experience conflict. But we live in societies, and I think that's a positive, and I would rather live in society. I think that we all, or most of us, agree that's a positive thing in our community. So accept that conflict will happen, and that the failure part of conflict has a good thing, and it has a positive thing, which is that we get to hear each other. We get to, go through these steps. So maybe step is first, like before you start your day, say, conflict is everywhere. Conflict is a part of healthy relationships, and I'm going to fail fast, fail frequent, I'm going to fail forward. Start with that desire. So then when conflict arises, you're like, I know what this is. This is conflict, right?
The opportunity to fail.
It's just that the wants are in opposite directions. If our wants went the same direction, great. It's just a difference of wants, right? In business, right? I have to understand what they want, and they are hearing as a doctor, not necessarily what I want, but like what I'm recommending is important to them and their options. So I give a few options, and we have to align what I want. Like I don't grow my business, and there's offices like this that the doctor has an agenda of their want, and patient doesn't want to do that. And in the moment, it's really hard for patients to say that out loud that they don't agree with that doctor.
Because their mouth is open and they can't.
Exactly. But they walk out, and guess what they do? They don't reschedule.
Yeah.
Because they want to sit in line. So I want to hear, here's your options. Here's what I know can help you. What do you want to do? And we hear that. But fail, again, first step, you've got to acknowledge that conflict is okay and good. It's part of good teams. It's part of good relationships. So if I'm going to be a good team member with my spouse, my wife, then I know that there's going to be conflict. Conflict doesn't mean that we're in a poor relationship. It means that we have different wants. We define it. It just all means we have different wants. So let's talk about why we have different wants, and maybe it's an easy fix to realign. The next step is that we're going to fail fast, frequent, and forward, right? We're going to find a way to almost expedite the process, right? I kind of don't want to find out 10 years down the road that I wasted a lot of time. I would like to find out sooner that I'm wasting time, or that there's a better way. So willing to change my way of doing things, whether that's a home, business, community life. And then define it. When it comes and arises, recognize, like I promise today, Bryan, your first conflict, when it happens, or anyone that's listening, you're going to see it. And I hope you smile. Conflict, you'll be like, this is just a difference of wants. Somebody cut me off. He really wanted to be in that lane, and I really wanted him to stay in the other lane. Like, it's just a conflict of wants. So now we define it.
All right, everybody, right in the middle of our episode, we had some conflict. So this falls perfectly in line with what Greg's been telling us. We had some technical glitches. We lost Greg for a few minutes, and now we're back to finish out our episode, and I'm excited about it. So, Greg, tell us a little more about step 3 in the process here. You're right in the middle of it when we lost you.
Yeah. And so as we were offline, like defining. We went through the whole process, Bryan and I, and it was amazing. And we laughed. I said, "Hey, Bryan, this is conflict," and he started smiling. So whether it's with humans or I guess technology, we're going to have these differences of wants. But after you've defined kind of the situation, and then you can bring back the emotion, and that's like the last step. It's just the resolution. So like, how do I feel about it? How do you feel about it? Like, why do we feel this way? And usually at that point, it's okay. Well, we feel like we should do what now? So now that we've defined it, now that we've taken this pause, how do we be intentional with the end result, which is you make a plan. Okay, so what are we going to do? Usually, you're going to have to align the wants. And this maybe goes back to what we talked about in our partnership, right? Like, I'm not always going to say my want is going to win out over my business partner's wants. So we have to be able to say, hey, what is now the best for the overarching group? What is the best for both of us? Well, it'd be really nice if you could move your shoes to this other location, but you know what? You've had a hard day, so I'm going to move it for you. And if you could think about it next time, it'd be great. And it's almost laughable that we're using this example, because I know my wife, if she listens to this podcast ever, she's going to be like, that never happens, and that's fine. But it just gives listeners something, or viewers something to put into context of how that might show up in their everyday life, and then how do they work through that.
Well, Greg, I'm going to call Aubrey and I'm going to tell her that she should put her shoes away because it's obviously causing some conflict that she might not be aware of. But no, it's all right. It's been an awesome joy having you here with us. And I know that I didn't get to all the questions that I had in my mind as you were just speaking. So I look forward to the day that we have you back. And it's been great here. And I look forward to fielding all the comments and questions about what you said.
I would love that. And look, there are things that I think I would love to talk about more. And so if you don't reach out to me in the future, I will probably do what I did this time and reach back out to you and say, Bryan, I'm ready to talk some more. I've got some awesome things we can talk about. But I hope it's been enriching. Our goal is always to uplift the one. And if there's even one listener, one viewer that can be uplifted from my words today, then I feel like that's a powerful thing. So thank you for taking your time to listen. And thanks for bringing me on board, Bryan.
Yeah, and if you guys want to find Greg, you can find him. We'll have all of the links down to his places of business and how to connect with him. Obviously, if you're in his local community, you see the huge flag, go give him a visit and find out what he's up to over there.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on The Intentional Way. I'm Bryan Hatch, and it's been a true privilege to share this time with you. If today's episode has inspired you in any way, shape, or form, please subscribe, follow, and download our episodes. Your support not only helps us grow, it also enables us to bring more insightful conversations and exceptional guests right to you. Living intentionally begins with a single step, yours. So let's make the most of it. Until next time, seek intention by being completely present.